Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. I want to talk to you about the season 3 finale of Batwoman, which was called We Having Fun Yet. It may end up being the series finale of Batwoman because it hasn't been renewed for season 4 yet, but none of the CW shows have been renewed yet. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything. So I remain hopeful that it will be renewed because this season was fantastic, and how they left things at the end of this episode positioned the show to do great things in a season 4. So I'm very hopeful that that will occur. But let me get to the breakdown and review of this episode. As the episode started, we see Marcus exploring the Hall of Mirrors at an abandoned amusement park, which is very Joker. And this scene is intercut with flashes of moments from what he experienced on the bus when Joker took it over and zapped him and all of that, the story of which we saw previously. And it seems like he's looking for something. Next, we see Mary visiting Alice in Arkham, and she finds her zapping herself in the head with some electrical implement or other that was there at the asylum. I wasn't sure what it was. They said later, but I forgot. Which she's doing in an effort to try to purge the Alice persona from herself. And again, just like the heartbreaking scenes last week, this was a heartbreaking scene because she's so distraught and so desperate to change herself and so sad. And Mary gets upset right alongside her when she realizes what's going on, upset for her, and tells her about a place they might be able to go to in Geneva where they might be able to help her. And the scene ends with the two of them just absolutely breaking down and, out of anguish. And it was just very heartbreaking and very moving, I thought. Next, as Team Batwoman is discussing how to get to Marcus and use the buzzer on him, Mary comes in and says, no, we should use it on Alice, which the team objects to, which Mary passionately pushes back against, reminding them that they told her that she would have a voice on the team going forward. And, she says she believes Alice can change and that she just needs to save Alice. It's just something she needs to do. She needs to save her life. And I was loving every second of this, especially because it did seem to have some impact on Ryan and the rest of the team. And it did seem to kind of move them a bit when she was, saying this stuff. And it's what I've been waiting for a long time. Someone to advocate for Alice, someone to recognize the value in Alice, in getting her back to the Beth persona, or back in touch with it. And it's been happening in drips and drabs, but this was, I guess, the biggest expression of that sentiment so far. And I just loved it because I've been waiting for it for a long time. Because we have to remember, Alice is a victim, ultimately. And she does care about people and things. She's not a sociopath. So, as her father noted. So I just thought this was great. But their discussion is interrupted by a crazy viral video from Marcus in which he says he's going to out Batwoman's true identity in 5 hours' time. Ryan goes to visit Alice herself to ask her why she deserves the buzzer. And she explains that essentially Ryan is better off letting her have it because whatever happens, if Alice ends up not giving a shit about Ryan after using the buzzer, it won't hurt her. Certainly not as much as it will if Marcus gets to use the buzzer, but then ends up, not giving a shit about Ryan or anything. And then she tells Ryan she knows she doesn't deserve it. But she then tells Ryan what Joker told people in Arkham after attacking the bus, which apparently was that he planned to have a big attack against the city, which I guess he conveyed to the people he was talking to by telling them a riddle. Next, we find out that it happens that there's a bat blimp, and that what Marcus was looking for in the Hall of Mirrors was a bunch of acid that he could use essentially as a bomb to rain acid down on the citizenry, which I guess he planned to do after luring them out into the streets with the promise of unmasking Batwoman. So we see him flying above the city in this giant dirigible and preparing to carry out this crazy plot. Team Batwoman decides to try to use a Bat villain tool to get Gotham citizens out of harm's way after it seems that Ryan did in fact give the buzzer to Alice because it's not in her possession anymore at this point. But they don't explicitly say that. And the reason they want to use a Bat villain tool is because they're trying to hypnotize everybody all at once to get them to go, seek shelter. And they figure they might be able to do that with some Bat villain tech. Anyway, Ryan appeals to Jada for help, and Jada decides to put herself at risk to help defeat Marcus, and apparently was able to get him fired by revealing the fact that he killed his father, which got Ryan reinstated as CEO, giving the team access to the Batcave again, where they then find Penguin's umbrella, which is a hypnotic device, and they are pretty confident they can use it to, as I said, hypnotize the city residents and get them all to take cover all at once. Next, what happens is Luke manages to hack into the blimp from the ground and take it over, and then Marcus shoots the pilot and the computer to block Luke from actually being able to control it. At which point, Batwoman launches herself up to it with the bat grapple from the top of a building, which was very cool. After that, while she's in the cargo hold, she's examining the acid bombs, and she and Sophie discover that it's going to be really hard, if at all possible, to defuse the thing. At which point, Ryan decides to try to take control of the blimp from inside the blimp and ditch it in Gotham Harbor. Meanwhile, the rest of Team Batwoman does in fact manage to send out a hypnotic message to all of Gotham to get them to take cover. Marcus then confronts Batwoman as she's trying to do this. They fight, during which she pummels the heck out of him at one point, asking him to please bring back Marcus, to which he offers a fake apology. He says, "Oh, I'm sorry," before pushing Batwoman out of a window of the blimp, which had previously cracked during their fight. And it was just nuts. This was a nuts fight in the middle of a blimp flying over Gotham, flying out of control, really, or not under anyone's control. And then he shoves her out this window. It was like, what? It was just epic, I thought. As she's falling, she uses the bat grapple to grab Marcus off of the blimp and pull him toward her and grab onto him as if they were tandem skydiving. And then she opens a parachute while holding onto him, and they land on a building top. Then Luke dons the Batwing suit and makes his way to the blimp and uses his father's AI from inside the suit to control the blimp, to set it to detonate over a desolate, empty area of Gotham so that when it blows up, it won't hurt anyone. But in order to do that, he has to leave the AI behind. So he says goodbye to his dad, who he thanks for teaching him how to be a hero, to which the AI responds, "You've saved Gotham, now go save your team." At which point Luke departs the blimp. Ryan and Marcus again have a fight, this time on the rooftop where they landed, and they both go over the edge. And the only thing keeping them both from falling is Ryan, who's holding on to the building, and Marcus. Now, the fact that she's able to do this is a little far-fetched, if not a lot far-fetched, because, she doesn't have any superpowers or super strength or anything. And this suit, to my knowledge, doesn't give her any strength to be able to do such a thing. So might she have been able to hold a small dog? or a child, yes. But most people would not have been able to hold the weight of a full-grown man in one hand and keep him from falling, off the side of a building while they're also holding on to the bed. I mean, it's just far-fetched. But anyway, while this is happening, Marcus asks her if she's willing to let him die, and she says, "No, I'm not letting go." At which point, Alice shows up, and we see a flashback to the end of the conversation that she and Ryan had at Arkham, where Ryan decides to, in fact, give her the buzzer, after telling her that she believes Alice can change without it, and that Mary believes this as well, and that together the three of them know that the only one who really needs it is Marcus. And when we go back to the building, Alice is pulling both Marcus and Batwoman back onto the roof, which again, not sure she'd really be able to do that, or that anybody would really be able to do that didn't have superpowers. At which point we see that Ryan has the buzzer again, either because Alice never actually took it, even though it was offered to her, or she did, but then gave it back to her. They're on the roof, and Ryan zaps Marcus with it and then thanks Alice, and I am just crying at this point. It was just epic to see Alice show up and just pull them off the roof and stand there on her own 2 feet, having willingly given up the buzzer and the chance to use it, knowing that the only way she's going to get sane without even trying the buzzer is to put in the work. And it just endeared her to me even more than she had been this whole time. It was a heroic moment for her, not so much in the sense that she saved anybody or whatever, but that she decided to become the hero in her own life. And I couldn't have been happier with that development than I was. It was just great. I mean, I can't thank the writers enough for going in that direction. I thought it was fantastic. So, because they could have written anything, right? They could have written it that she used the buzzer and came up with some rationale for it, but they didn't. They wrote it such that she says, "No, I'm better than that. And I can do this myself, and I can give someone else the opportunity to be healed." And it's everything I could possibly have wanted for the character. We then see Marcus on a gurney at Mary's clinic, seemingly in good physical health, but unconscious. Ryan and Jada talk, and they agree to try to forge a future as a family, at least between the two of them, as Marcus wakes up and seems to actually be normal again, and saying that it's nice to meet Ryan for real. And when Ryan asks him how he feels, he says he feels like he's meeting his sister, which, I thought was great. Again, you could look at it and say, well, they're wrapping up everything in a nice little bow, aren't they? And they are, but that's okay. I've been saying for weeks now that I want everybody on this show to end up being okay, including, the villains. And that includes Marcus. And so that's what they did, and I'm happy with it. Batwoman was able to save her brother. And, again, he was also a victim, right? He only became that way because of something that was done to him. So that he's able to come out on the other side of it okay is great. And I wanted him to be okay just as much as I wanted anybody else to be okay. So I thought it was great. Next, we see that Beth, has left a note for Mary saying that she's off to find herself and will catch Mary on the flip side. To which Mary says to herself, "Good for you, Beth." And I just fucking lost it. I lost it. Again, I can't thank the writers enough for that moment and for taking the character there and for calling her, having Mary acknowledge that she's Beth, or on the road to becoming Beth, no longer Alice. And I just think it's great. And to twist the happy knife even more, this moment was followed by a scene of Beth back to her brown hair, heading out from Gotham with a go bag with a sort of smile on her face. At which point I couldn't breathe. I was just thrilled beyond description with that. I again could not have asked for better development for this character than that, especially, as I said, if this is in fact the end of the series. Because I had read that she had said, the actress, that Alice was going to become Red Alice by the end of the season, by the end of the season finale. And I was like, okay, well, I'm ride or die, so I'll go with it. But it wouldn't have been what I wanted. This was what I wanted. This is what I've been dreaming they were going to do for a long time now. And they did it, and I'm over the moon. I'm over the moon. Team Batwoman then closes out the episode by preparing to take back the Batcave as a team with an eye on the future and with everyone being okay, including, by the way, Marcus, who, says, you taught me how to be a hero, and he's able to leave the AI behind and go on and continue being, Batwing and, doing his thing to help Gotham, which, it was touch and go for a while, whether or not he was going to be able to do that anytime soon. So that was great as well. Of course, Sophie and Ryan are a couple, and that's flourishing. So that's cool. I was just happy with all of that. Mary is happy with where things are, with having helped Beth, and it could not have ended better than that. Of course, before the end, there was one more scene where we were taken to the crash site of the blimp to see a female news reporter doing a report from there about the crash that is interrupted seemingly by Solomon Grundy, at least to my eyes, who attacks her and the cameraman and then is seen walking off in the screen of the sideways camera on the ground. Now, I can't say that it absolutely was Solomon Grundy, but as whoever this was or whatever this was walking away, it had the appearance to me of Solomon Grundy from the back. But the hand that swatted the camera down seemed to be more like a creature hand. And before I saw whoever it was or whatever it was walking away, I thought perhaps the attack had been carried out by Man-Bat. So it could be either of those. Could be Man-Bat, could be Solomon Grundy, could be something I'm not even thinking of. But it's definitely going to come up in season 4 if, in fact, the show is renewed for season 4. Crossing all of my, I'm not crossed on this side. Why can I not do it? Crossing my digits. I'm even crossing my toes. You can't see. I'd cross my eyes, but then I wouldn't be able to read my notes off the screen in front of me. Like I say, I loved how this episode wrapped up the season and may have wrapped up the series. If this is the end, I'm happy with where they ended it. If this is the end, I'm okay with it. So I'm thrilled that it ended the way it did. If it comes back, cool. I'll watch season 4. And some of the stuff that could happen in season 4, I talked about a little bit before. It would be nice if we got to see Kate again. She is the OG, right? And it would be nice to see Wallace Day back in the part, because it would allow us to get an update on the search for Bruce. It would allow an opportunity for Ryan and Kate to fight side by side, which didn't happen in season 2, because by the time Kate was straightened out, she left to go find Bruce. So she never really got to fight side by side with Batwoman or, with the new Batwoman with Ryan. So, that could certainly happen in season 4. That would be very cool. So I'm hoping it gets renewed. I thought this season was great, even though the first season wasn't good and the second season was very uneven. I thought this season was very solid, and I really hope it gets a fourth season. And if it does, I will, of course, be back with reviews of those episodes. For now, I take my leave and I wish you peace and long life.